Picture this, a real estate correction so massive that it shakes the foundation of the very market. Think 2008, only 5 times bigger. Because right now there is over $2.7 trillion of debt looming over the US real estate market, threatening to wreak havoc on anyone relying on the system for their retirement. But there is a twist to this potential catastrophe. This same crisis is going to create an unprecedented tidal wave of opportunity for those who are prepared to see it and seize it. Even Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha himself, is taking notice. He recently dumped almost all of his bank stocks, building up a $325 billion war chest of cash and cash equivalents, positioning himself for what's to come. Now, I want to welcome you back to the Wealth Outside of Wall Street channel. My name is Ryan Lee, and on this channel, we expose the strategies that the wealthy, like Warren Buffett, are using to protect and grow their money. Strategies that completely operate outside of the traditional financial system, giving you more control and confidence over your money today and the future that you're building tomorrow. If you've ever felt trapped by market volatility, overwhelmed by uncertainty, or just frustrated with being at the mercy of Wall Street and banks, you're in the right place. And in this video, we're going to dive into what could be the greatest real estate correction of our time. I'm going to break down why the $2.7 trillion in commercial real estate debt is at the heart of the crisis that we're about to face, what Warren Buffett's moves are signaling, and most importantly, how you can take advantage to not just survive, but ultimately thrive, to create an asymmetric upside that will explode your wealth. Now, the problem is this. There is a $2.7 trillion real estate crisis right around the corner. The scale of this problem is absolutely staggering. There is $2.7 trillion in commercial real estate debt set to mature in the next 20 months. Let that sink in for just a minute. $2.7 trillion. In fact, on this screen, I'm going to list that out so you can see how many zeros are in $2.7 trillion. This isn't just a bump in the road, it's a massive tidal wave. And here's the real kicker. These loans were created when interest rates hovered at historic lows, 2 to 3%. But today, those rates have more than doubled, sitting at nearly 7, even 8%. And worse still, the Federal Reserve has made it clear there is no relief in sight. If anything, rates could climb even higher as the fight against inflation drags on. Now, you might think this doesn't affect me. I don't have any money in the commercial real estate markets, but I want you to think again. This is way more than just a commercial real estate crisis. It's a banking crisis in the making, and it could hit your bank balances even if you haven't invested a single dollar in a commercial property. Let me break it down for you. Imagine a $100 million hotel in New York City at a 3% interest rate. The annual debt payment on that would be about $3.5 million. Now, based on the profitability of when you secure the property, that debt might be manageable for a profitable operation. But at a 7% interest rate, that payment on your debt skyrockets from $3.5 million to well over $7 million, doubling the debt burden and wiping out almost all profitability on these type of investments. And here's where it gets worse. Commercial real estate isn't valued like single-family homes. It's not about what the property next door sold for, it's about the cash flow. If a property's cash flow cannot support the new debt payments, its value collapses, and it collapses overnight. In this example, the $100 million property now qualifies for just $48 million in financing. That's a $52 million loss for the bank as these debts are revalued over the next 20 months. And for an investor, the options are pretty bleak. Choice number one is you could hold on to the property, you could absorb those losses, and hope that rates drop in the future before the bleeding gets worse. Choice number two for investors is to simply walk away, to declare bankruptcy and hand the property and the balloon debt back to the bank. And the truth is, most investors simply don't have the liquidity to weather these compounded changes. So they're already beginning to choose and will continue to choose option number two, leaving the banks and ultimately everyday people who've entrusted those banks with their deposits to pick up the pieces. And this isn't an isolated issue. It's a nationwide ripple effect when you think about the commercial loans that are coming due. I want you to think about car dealerships, faltering restaurants, closing department stores, and struggling supermarkets. We are literally on the verge of what could become the largest real estate correction in modern history. This is what Warren Buffett saw coming, and this is why he was offloading all of his bank stocks and simply stockpiling cash to, number one, preserve and protect his principal, and number two, to position himself for the profit from the fallout. Now, Warren Buffett isn't the only one. Barry Sternlicht, the CEO of a $115 billion real estate fund, has sounded the alarm as well. He's predicting at least one bank failure per week as this crisis unfolds over the next 20 months. Think about that, one bank failure per week. And we're not talking about small, obscure institutions. Over 1,000 US banks are teetering on the edge of financial distress, facing the same risk that brought down Silicon Valley Bank in 2023. I mean, consider just some of these banks that are holding over $1.9 trillion of commercial loans that are on the brink of default. Now, this picture is dire for sure. Higher interest rates, rising vacancies, and sustained inflation are putting immense pressure on 75% of regional and community banks across America. In fact, Moody's has already downgraded New York Community Bank's credit rating to junk status, freezing deposits and jeopardizing the institution's future. Experts warn that this could lead to $1 trillion in banking losses. Now, when banks can't offset these loans, they collapse, and they collapse fast. Remember back to 2023 when Silicon Valley Bank went from operational to insolvent in just 3 days. Multiply that across hundreds, if not thousands of banks nationwide, and you're staring at a financial house of cards getting ready to topple. We're facing a perfect storm, no doubt. Defaulting loans, skyrocketing interest rates, and a looming threat of bank runs. This isn't just a possibility, it's a looming reality. The question is, are you prepared for what's coming? The solution to the banking crisis is surprisingly simple. Instead of sitting back and waiting to see which banks falter and how it might impact your balances, I want you to consider this. What if you took control now? What if there was a place that you could store your money that wasn't just safe, it was untouchable? A place where your cash grew consistently, tax-free, and remained accessible whenever you needed it. A system completely separate from the banking industry risks, fractional reserve lending, and all forms of government overreach. Well, my friends, this is called the infinite banking strategy. Now, many of you have probably heard of this strategy. It's been recently sensationalized on things like TikTok, but I want to slow down for just a minute and help you remember what's at stake. We as American people rely on banks for nearly everything. Your paycheck, your credit cards, and almost all forms of deposits and security runs through the banking system. But this doesn't have to be the case for your wealth. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you should use the infinite banking strategy to fund things like your groceries, but what I am going to suggest is you could take your money out of the banking system and start building wealth with a completely operational framework for your money. The infinite banking concept uses at its core an overfunded whole life insurance policy. These overfunded whole life insurance policies remove the risk that you're now facing in a house of cards with fractional reserve lending. Now, in the banking institution, the reason that the commercial real estate crisis is going to affect you is the banks have simply taken your deposits and they've made risky loans and risky investments with your money. If we all collectively agree that the bank is at risk and we all go back to the bank and say, I want my money back, we all kind of know the truth behind the charade. Our money is not there. In fact, the banks, using fractional reserve lending, lent out 90% more than we ever deposited into the bank, which ultimately means that the banks, they literally do not have our money. So my friends, here's the challenge to you. If you realize that there is a threat to your wealth, the thing that you're trading your time for, the very tool that you're intending to use to buy your time back, why not see the future and act in the present? Think in decades and act in days. Right now, there is a massive crisis, a major crisis affecting most people, and they're completely unprepared. Their eyes are closed and they're hoping that the FDIC, that the banking industry, or someone will come and save them. Now, while that might be the case, what if rather than being saved, you took control? By setting up a very uniquely designed infinite banking policy, which is a maximum funded, minimum life insurance contract, this gives you the ability to have your money in an account where it's growing completely tax-free, completely independent of market chaos, and completely liquid to you, the policy holder. Now, once your money is inside of one of these accounts, you now have the opportunity to start taking back control over not just your money, but over the banking feature. Now, again, going back to the bank, when we put our money in the bank, we inherently know that they're using leverage with our money. They're playing games using shenanigans with our money. And they're going out making loans hoping that will generate a profit that they keep completely to themselves using our money. But in the infinite banking strategy, all of the money that you've secured inside of one of these accounts gives you the ability to generate a compounded, guaranteed return backed by companies who've done this for hundreds of years. These companies are literally the most successful companies in the history of our country. They are private companies. You cannot buy stock in them. They're called mutual insurance companies, and only the policyholders who have these type of accounts get to share off of the profitability of these companies. But in addition to this, all your cash inside of one of these accounts opens up a private line of credit that you control 100%. This gives you the ability to leverage the value of your cash to achieve a long-term goal of having your money safe, secure, tax-free, and growing, but also have the ability to leverage the value of your capital via a policy loan to accomplish any form of your short-term goals. This is where the game is going to get interesting. The reason why Warren Buffett is sitting in cash is he's going to be picking up assets at pennies on the dollar as banks become more and more and more insolvent. They will liquidate properties, they will liquidate assets at unprecedented prices to try to make whole the outstanding loans that are set to hit their balance sheet. This gives you and me, people with capital, people with liquidity, an opportunity to seize the moment, to acquire those assets, to put them in our portfolio by giving the bank cash to solve the liquidity crisis. My friends, I hope you're seeing the opportunity. For me, I got into the game of real estate naively, I have to admit, in 2009. In 2009, banks were doing exactly what they're getting ready to do in 2025 and 2026. Banks were liquidating assets. They had made several bad loans, and they were now liquidating assets for pennies on the dollar. Heck, in 2009, I was buying properties that the banks committed capital to renovating, to painting, to flipping and rehabbing, so I would want to acquire it. I've bought those assets, I've held those assets, and I've generated millions of dollars of profit ever since. My friends, I believe in 2025 and beyond, with the looming commercial real estate crisis, the very same type of opportunity is going to present itself for those who have eyes to see and liquidity to take advantage of. So my friends, my hope for you is that you will take action. Don't let the banks have all the fun. You can build a very similar system that they use every single day, all using a uniquely designed, overfunded whole life insurance policy. So my friends, I hope more than anything this opened your eyes to what's coming down the road, but also opened you up to the possibilities that this is going to create for you and your wealth building opportunities. If you like this video, I want you to do 3 things. Number 1, I want you to subscribe. If you're not subscribed to this channel, do me a favor. Hit that like button, smash the subscribe button so you stay up to date with all future videos just like this one. Number 2, if you're interested in learning how you can build wealth using the infinite banking strategy, comment Vault below. We'd be more than happy to set up a one-on-one call with you to help you understand both the opportunity as well as the protection required for your capital. And number 3, join me on the next video where I'll continue to unfold and expound on the opportunities for investing and ultimately creating financial freedom in 10 years or less. I'll see you on the other side.